Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I am excited to have Natasja Visser with me. She's an experienced counselor and a coach. She specializes in working with children, adolescents, and families. She has developed expertise in teen-parent conflict resolution, especially in the context of healthy sexuality. Welcome to the show, Natasja.
Thanks for having me, Doctor.
It is so important what your expertise does for parents. I have worked for 30 years as a family counselor, and I work a lot with parents and teens. So I know that teen years are the most difficult years for the teen and the parent. And in these years, obviously, the conversation about sexuality needs to happen, but most parents are comfortable talking about it, and they probably know much less than their teens are learning from their own peers and media, let's say, and internet. So it becomes really awkward because it's one of those things that nobody wants to talk about it, and then yet everybody yearns to know more about it, and then parents have no idea where the boundaries are. Should they go through the boundaries? Should they say something like proactively? Should they say something reactively? Should they wait until the teen comes and talks about it? And then we also have conversations that are more apparent now because of more accessibility to pornography for children and teens. We also have more openness in teens acting out, their sexual, let's say, fantasies together. But also now we have this conversation a lot more, especially in United States, about the concept of non-binary, questioning their own sexual identity, almost as close as, age 12, 13 now. And coming to share with their parents, and parents have no idea what to do with that. So we have a lot to talk about, Natasja. So go for it. Tell me where you want to start.
Well, let's start with a good question. Why do parents want to talk to their kids about sex? And I normally ask parents when they come to my office, why do you want to talk to them about sex? Because actually when they come to me and there's already things that happen, they were involved in pornography or sexting or whatever the situation might be. It's like you said, do we react afterwards, or should do something before? And yeah, and I love talking to parents about these things so that they can help parents get out of their own way and start the conversation, and to be brave enough to start a conversation, not wait until a certain age. I know there's a lot of controversy of what time is the right time to talk to your kids, which age, and all of that. But I focus on helping parents to talk to their kids, start the conversation, because they do know more. And the scary part is the kids know much earlier, in today's day and age. And it seems like the parents hasn't catched up with the changes. We're still in that old-fashioned way where we don't talk about that, it's private. In our culture, we don't talk about that. And the parents shy away. So I focus on helping parents to say, well, shying away is not good enough. And the talk is not anymore like we need to teach our kids to ride a bike, teach them how to swim, how to read, and have the talk. Like one of the checklists done. The talk needs to be done much more on purpose, and it needs to be a more focused conversation. So yeah, that's where we are with our society at today's day and age, and we as parents need to catch up.
Natasja, one of the things that is weird is because most parents, when they want to talk about anything else, they utilize experiences that they've had themselves. Like if they want to ride a bike or whatever, they keep saying, when I was, at this age, and this is what I did, and this was my experience. And sexuality is one of those things like parents not only don't want to talk to their teen about their own experience, but most of the times when, children learn about their parents' sexual activity, they're like, ew, thank you, I don't want to know. So makes it so much harder, because usually any topic that you bring to your teens, you're either talking about somebody else or an experience of somebody else or what you've seen or what you've heard, except the subject has to be kind of introduced in a whole new way. Can you share with us what you would suggest for someone to begin even the conversation of sexuality with their kids?
Yeah, so my approach is much more positive. So I asked parents, do you want a plumbing lesson, the basic biology, or do you want to have a positive conversation? And that is why we ask, why do you want to have the conversation? Because we know that your child's sexual decisions is not just about the physical act, the plumbing parts, and explaining them that part. And we shy away from that because it's uncomfortable, and the children do go, ooh, no, it's gross, I don't want to hear that. And then we shy away, and we don't want to talk about our own past or the things that we might feel ashamed of, or maybe just don't want to feel uncomfortable to share. So I prefer we start positive, and the only way to start positive is when we start the conversation. So we as parents need to be brave enough to start the conversation, not catch them out first, say, let's start a conversation. And I like to help parents to say, let's set the stage. Let's create an opportunity to start the conversation in a more casual setting, not really face to face. I call it shoulder to shoulder conversation. Maybe when we're walking or driving the car or doing something together, an activity or doing something together, and say, have you heard the word sex before? If that's a very young, early childhood, 6-7-year-olds maybe, and older children, you can maybe start the conversation by asking a nice open question about how do you feel about sexuality, and what do you think about that, or have your friends talk to you about it, and maybe do it in the car when you're shoulder to shoulder and they can't run away, and you start that nice open conversation. Start it positively. I find that children are more reluctant to talk to their parents if they start a positive conversation rather than going experience and experiment with things, and then they are caught out by their parents, and then it's more damage control, and that's a very negative situation that parents find themselves in, and the kids, and then it's like a taboo, and they're in trouble, and then they won't go back to their parents to talk to them again. So I prefer to start it with a positive sense, and the only way I know that I've seen successful in the past, in my experiences, when the parents start the conversation, not waiting for the kids to bring it up.
So when a parent starts a conversation stating, let's sit down together and let's find out first the word sex, and asking the teen, what do you know about, what do you already know? So sometimes the teen, what are your experiences when the teen has talked? Sometimes with the people I work with, the teens give a very minimal information to their parents because they feel embarrassed, or they don't want, they almost get scared. Teens get scared to talk about sexuality to their parents. One is embarrassment, and I think the other part is because they're learning these types of things from their peers, they're almost thinking like, I'm doing something bad. And then if my parents find out about, my friends showing this to me or talking about this to me, then they're going to tell me not to go out with that person. They're going to make that person wrong, and I'm going to lose my relationship. So they're almost like they give very minimal information. What has your experience been? And then how do we open the next level of conversation after they give us their minimal information?
So that's why I said we need to set ourselves up for success. So I rather start with a nice conversation about love, especially when it's a girl. Start talking about love and true love or soulmates, all those words that seems a little bit out there. It's hard to define them, but getting to you're talking to your child's heart, not to their mind. All right, start with the heart, because it's about how they see things, how they're feeling. You talk to a teenager with their feelings, not with their logical mind. And when you get to their heart and they start opening up there, then you can go to the logic part down the line about don't get pregnant and all of those things. But we tend to set ourselves up as very negative because they know what you're going to say. don't watch porn, don't do sexting, don't get pregnant, all those conversations. But if you start by just reaching out to them and show true interest in their experience of what do they see, what's the definition of love for them, what does dating mean? Oh, I love that question. When they say, I've got a boyfriend, I would ask, now, what is a boyfriend in your life? What does that mean? Or they will say, I'm dating. Now, what does dating mean? Is it French kissing? Is it holding hands? Is it going further than that, having sex? What is that definition? That's a nice, because you're inviting that teenager into to the conversation. And then when you have the opportunity, first listen, and listen means staying quiet, ask a nice open question and staying quiet and get to their hearts. And then you can go down the line with more sex. So parents just worry about the word sex. Steer away maybe from that. Start with the word love maybe, or romance, or dating, or relationships, and then you move the conversation slowly. Because that's why I, again, ask the why question. Do you just want to give the plumbing lesson? Do you just want to say, okay, I had the talk and I'm done? Or do you truly want to see what your child's values are, what their perceptions are, what's their fears about sex, of relationships and things that concerns them? Do you want to talk to them about that? Because that's more important than just a plumbing lesson. And we tend to focus on that. Then we steer away from the conversation because we are so uncomfortable. But there's much more deeper stuff to talk to your teenager rather than just the physical act.
It's so true. I've had a lot of this experience when I've asked, they come to my therapy session, the teens, and they say, I'm dating, or I have a boyfriend and I have a crush on this person. And many times when I ask, like, what does that mean? And sometimes it just means, oh, one of them said, oh, he asked me to go steady. And I said, what does steady mean to you? And he says, no, she said, nothing. Like, in the breaks between classes, we're just going to sit there and talk. And I said, anything else? Maybe he will hold my hand, and then means that we're exclusive and we're going steady. Well, the whole relationship lasted about 2 weeks, and then it was another person. But that's what happens a lot, is also there's a lot of fantasies around this kind of like a crush and attraction and all of it. And I think that's part of what I'm also hearing from you, is like when the only conversation that the parent cares for, or even in the school they're teaching, is how to put a condom, or not to get STD and not to get pregnant and all of that. There is a part that you're just scaring somebody while the teens are kind of getting excited about something that is giving them a pleasure at that moment. And the pleasure first is not about sexuality itself. It's about a sexual energy, not the act of sexuality. And what I'm hearing from you is like, deal with the sexual energy and whatever they're making it mean. And another part that I usually also consider is like respecting your body, and what does it mean for you to respect your emotions and body and all of that. And a lot more that the person can feel safe and will be feeling more safe with the parent having the ability to talk about these things, where we can teach our children assessment of what they're, how to assess when they're out there and how to protect themselves.
Yes. Yes, and I like the way you say how they assess themselves, because we assume as parents they would know from right or wrong, or we assume that they would know this is not what we as parents expect from them to do. And they have all this energy in them, sexual energy, and they don't know what to do with it. And we assume that they will just know, especially with this crazy online things going on and the exposure they have. We need to step up our game plan. I call it our game plan to talk to our kids about sex. There's a whole, it's not just about this one conversation. It's about love. It's about lust. It's about online activities. And we assume that they know what to do. And they actually have a lot of questions. If I may share one story of this teenager boy that I'm seeing about a year ago, and his mother actually brought him here because he was struggling with some anxiety and stuff like that. But actually, as we were talking, a teenager boy, he was self-soothing with some sexual activities and stuff. And he asked me midway, now, why can I only talk to you about this? I wish I can talk to my mother about this. And I thought, wow, He's a 16-year-old boy that really wants some help. He's got this energy. He doesn't know what to do with it. He actually longs to speak to his mother. And now he comes to me, and it's fine. I love to help these teenagers. But actually, parents, if you know how much your teenager wants to talk to you, and they will be uncomfortable as much as you are uncomfortable. If you are showing confidence and you are comfortable with the conversation, I know it's an important conversation, but it's not about you and your uncomfortability and your history and your sexual experience. It's about your children and their future. And if we start focusing there about them and their choices and their future, we can take a little bit of that uncomfortability away and help them with that energy that you just explained.
One of the things that I've also sensed, Natasja, is a lot of cultures, and I'm not saying all of them, but I think a lot of cultures deal with sexuality in a different way if they have a girl or a boy. Their concerns are more, obviously their concerns are more that their boys, you know, starting maybe even at age 11 or 12, start, you know, watching pornography, and they're much more, you know, go into the path of pornography and masturbation. And then the girls are, they're much more interested in, you know, their reputation, whether they have to be virgin. In some cultures, they, you know, they have to be abstinence from, you know, intercourse and insertion until they're married, but the same rules and laws don't go for boys. So have you come across families who treat this in a different way? And what would your suggestions be in cultures that, you know, don't need to, or in cultures that at times they do need to, or they are, I don't know if they need to, but they are concerned more, and make it a very much of a difference between the girls and the boys?
Yes, so I'm from South Africa, for those who don't know, and we have 11 different national languages. So we have a very broad variety of different cultures in our country. And it's really interesting when they come to me and when they start talking, you know, in our culture, we don't talk about this. And in our culture, we don't do this. And in our culture, boys need to do this. So they feel it's very unique to everybody. But I just want to say, all the parents are struggling with the same fears. And I do sense that there is a difference. I find that boys, when they come to me, they normally struggle with pornography and masturbation, and that's the reason their parents bring them. And then the girls, they struggle with the social media, sexting, and a lot of sexting problems. And even though we want to steer away and say, oh, there's no difference, there is a difference. But I also want to say the statistics does show that a lot of girls also watch porn. It's not that porn is just a boys' industry. I can't get the right stats now, but I think it's 68%, the last one that I checked, about amount of girls watching pornography. So it's not just a boys' thing of watching pornography. It's just, it's more likely assumed by society that the boys are watching pornography because they are more visual. So our boys will be more influenced by the visual stimulation. So that's why they are more prone to pornography, where girls are more about their status and stuff. So yeah, we tend to say it shouldn't be like that, but I do see that in my practice and in my culture, where everybody say it's different, but it's sort of, we can all relate. We all struggle as parents with the same issues when it comes to boys and girls. And then we also want to protect our girls. We tend to think that a lot of girls there's more dangers out there for girls online, a stranger talking to them and stuff, but we need to look after our boys as well. There's a lot of dangers for them as well online.
Yes, some of the girls that even in junior high, you know, what I've experienced with them, and they're like, you know, 12 and 13, which they get bullied by a lot of the boys in sending them nude, some sort of a nude. And then they feel like pressured, and not even they don't feel pressured in a way of, you know, violence or hostility. They first feel pressured by getting requested a lot from them, and then kind of like, you know, flirting with them, and then as if I won't give you any attention if you don't. So many of the girls, in order to get the attention, unfortunately, they do send their nudes. And then after a while, those nudes are somehow sent throughout, and then they get attacked by not only different boys, but they also get attacked by the girls. and it becomes very, very traumatic for them. Boys don't get the same, yeah, they also put out their nudes, but they don't hold the same type of, let's say, stigma as the girls do, and they don't get bullied as much for their nudes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have experienced some of a plan where, you know, in the social media, they had this teenager, which they posed as a girl who wanted a nude from him, and then blackmailed him and said, you have to pay some money or we're going to send your nude, you know, through all of your social media. So there's a lot of bullying, fraud, and all of that is happening. And I know that this is a part of the conversation that parents are trying. Unfortunately, it's almost like by the time the parent gets to know one of the social media, kids usually have figured out 10 other social media between them that they're going and interacting between each other, and not know necessarily, you know, the parents would know about them. What would be your suggestion in how to open a conversation about interacting in the internet in a sexual level?
So the first thing is, we as parents will go to that, you don't talk to any strangers online. Like in the past, we would say you don't talk to any strangers in the street, okay? But the thing is, when I talk to children and teenagers here and online, when I communicate with them, most of them are exposed by their friends. And that's where the parents think they have done their job. They have talked to the kids about, you don't talk to strangers or people or pedophiles or people like that. We have all these worst case scenarios. And the problem is it's their friends in their houses with their cell phones that are showing each other. So you need to start with the conversation with saying, listen, your friends will show you stuff. And then your kids will say, no, they won't. And they will. It's not if, it's they will. Even if you say your child doesn't have a phone, so he won't have anything, or he doesn't have any devices, the friends show each other. And it's not like it's your closest, sometimes it's the closest friends, but sometimes it's like a game. I have this one girl that's here, and she actually told us that, or me specifically, that this boy would call them out and say, oh, you like cute bunnies? Look, this picture of a cute bunny. And then she would come and watch, because she's loved animals, and then it's actually nudes that he is showing to her. So they like to give the shock effect to kids, to their friends, and then they look cool between them and stuff like that. So parents need to be aware that they need to actually talk to the kids about their friends exposing them. It's not that weird stranger out there, it's actually their friends doing this. So how I taught my son when he was quite younger, I told him, you never ever look at anybody else's phone. So when they were young, they watch over your shoulder. I'm not sure if your children did that. You would be doing something or sending a WhatsApp, and then they will watch over your shoulder. And I taught them that you don't look at anybody else's phone without asking, what do you want to show me? And then ask some clarifying questions. And actually, I did this with my son. I explained to him, and I say, ask them, what do you want to show? What is it about? Is it a game? You know, just ask some clarifying questions, just not saying it's a cute bunny, because obviously then it's not. And it actually happened to him. There was a girl that wanted to show him something, and he asked, what game is it? And when she started backpedaling, he realized it was not the game that she wanted to show him. She wanted to show something else. So in this manner, we can help our kids say, don't look at anything. Make sure who's the person sending you the stuff. Don't invite anybody on your phone, saving all the numbers, be sure that the ones you allow into your world, I say your phone, is your private world. It is your open door into your life as a child, as a teenager. So be sure the ones that you are inviting, you can trust them that they won't violate you in a sense of showing you stuff that you don't want to see. And we talk about that. That's important to bring that up.
And then when somebody has, for example, been exposed, and they go through some sort of a shame, let's say, like the kid, you know, there's an intriguing experience, which there's a shame, there's guilt, there's fear about people finding out, and then there's like this interest and curiosity and, you know, getting intrigued and sitting with friends and going, hee hee hee, you know. So it's such a combination of all of those emotions for teens. What do you suggest for parents in when they get it, that there's a curiosity there, that you know, they want to know? So just telling them no, 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 it might not necessarily work, because teens will cross boundaries at any point. So if we find out that they do, then they did, and then, you know, how do we open the conversation during, you know, on a normal way to keep checking? You know what I'm like? These are not one conversation you have and then you drop it and then you'll, you know, you'll say, okay, this is never going to happen. It's more of a conversation that once in a while we got to keep bringing up and still keep the safety, so that our kids and teens feel safe, that they can come back to us. How would you suggest sharing that with parents?
With parents. So yeah, I like always keep checking in, like you just said. You must always keep on checking in. The way I suggested, in a positive way, saying, listen, you won't be in trouble if you stumbled on something or somebody showed you something or saw something and you come and tell me. So giving them the out, that they won't get this big lecture from you, or their phones will be taken away, because they have that fear. Okay, if mom sees me, I got this photo of somebody that I couldn't even control, they just send it to me, and you are like this extreme overreaction, taking the phone away, they're not going to come to you. So be sure that you as parents don't overreact. Practice that calm voice, calm body, so that when they come to you and say, listen, I saw something, they come to you with confidence and knowing that you're going to help them not seeing this again, or helping them. A child that does that, they need actually a big reward. It takes a lot of courage for a child to come to you, but you need to open that invitation to say, listen, you're going to stumble on things and things are going to happen, because that's the world we're living in. But you won't be in trouble if you come to me and say, I saw this, what should I do now? And then you need, as a parent, to help them. If you say, if I ever catch you sending nudes, you're moving out, they will never come and ask you for help. So that fear that you create in your child is really, really important to check in on, because if you create a fear in them, they're not going to talk to you. So maybe I can illustrate with a story, if I may. A very nice story. I keep this always in mind when I talk to parents, and this is really powerful. So we had a little chameleon, a small chameleon in our house some time ago, and he needed to be fed with live crickets. And these live crickets we need to throw into the little glass bowl, and then he climbs down and hunt this. So I told my son he needs to feed this live crickets, but he needs to put the cricket box with 100 crickets in. He needs to put it on the shelf, otherwise the ants come and eat the crickets. So that was the instruction, but he didn't do that. So out of fear, he didn't tell me that he forgot the cricket bowl on the floor. So it was attacked by ants. So to save himself, to get out of the problem, out of trouble, he put the box of crickets in the glass bowl. So now the crickets and the ants came out and started to attack the ants, the little chameleon. So he wanted to, again, fix the problem. He didn't come to me. This is the lesson. He didn't come to me out of fear, because he didn't listen the first time. The second time he made it worse. And then he thought, okay, now how is he going to get rid of this ant? So he took a big bowl of water and tried to drown the ants. And this bowl wasn't made to hold water. It was actually, there was holes in it. So my living room was starting to flood with water, ants, crickets, and the chameleon. And that's the time I stepped in. Now you can imagine I'm very mad as a mom, because he didn't listen in the first place. But here's the lesson. When is your child going to come and ask you for help, or said, I made a mistake, or I saw something, or something went wrong, and I need your help? And this is a profound lesson for me, because why was he afraid to come and talk to me when he, in the first place, made a mistake? Because we could salvage, we could just take the ants and crickets and throw it away. But he made such a big mess. Now, I worked in a pregnancy counseling center with unplanned pregnancies. And then these girls would get pregnant, go for abortion, struggling with depression, so many things. And then I asked, when did you tell your mom? And they still didn't tell their mother. And they made all these life-altering decisions, and their mother wasn't there to help them. And it all began with fear. So check in on yourself. Are you creating an atmosphere in your house of fear? Can your child come and talk to you about anything and everything without shame or guilt? And if you create that, okay, check in on like my little chameleon story. Just check in on any other thing that you're busy with. If they haven't finished their homework, are they too scared to come and tell you? Or they said, Mom, I'm not done. Can you help me to get done? How can you help me in the future that I don't do this? And that's the atmosphere that you need to create, because the consequences of a STD or a pregnancy or things like that is much worse than my little story. But that helps us as parents to check in if we create an atmosphere of fear for our kids.
It's very important what you're saying. And what I hear you say is that overall in our parenting style, we know that children will make mistakes, because we do as human beings, we're all going to make mistakes. We already know that they have to go beyond boundaries in order to grow. And if they're not testing the world with us in going through boundaries, they won't really test the world in going through boundaries either. And many people, you know, we raise our children to only be a particular way. And then when they become 18 or 19 and 20, we expect them to go and, you know, crash all the ceilings that are out there and become successful. But what they're trying to do also at home is to do things and make mistakes and learn and move forward and cross boundaries and do all of that, and then still be able to be dealt with in a way that they could learn. So I really hear you saying throughout, don't just wait for the sex conversation, but throughout your parenting, if we are in a way that our children have the ability and the right to make mistakes and tell us and learn before making a mistake, to come, and the way we are with them, it doesn't always have to be, okay, you do it this way, but also maybe to work with them to learn how to assess, how to start thinking, critical thinking. Especially teens have the ability now, you know, their brain and frontal cortex has the ability to do critical thinking. So it's more of teaching them how to do critical thinking, because as they're growing up, you're not going to be there all the time. You know, they're no longer an infant when you're going to be there all the time to make sure that all, you know, nothing's going to happen. So we got to get them ready to be out there without us and make decisions that are appropriate for them. And for that also means that when they are making decisions and it's not going well, for us to be in a way that it feels safe for them to share with us. And it's okay. They're not going to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes. But the point is, how can they create appropriate assessment for that mistake? Another conversation that also shows up for me, which I see it recently, and I see it recently more because I think there's more sex education and gender education in junior high and high schools. I know in the United States and in Europe, and I don't know whether it's in South Africa or not. Not every country, but you know, these countries at least are having it. So obviously, right around when the kids are, you know, going through puberty, there also the conversation of, you know, what is my preference or my gender or my, you know, sexual base. Am I a homosexual? Am I a heterosexual? Am I non-binary? You know, and now we're having this conversation of, you know, we don't even talk about she or he. It's more like you ask, who do you consider yourself to be? One of the things that I've noticed is that it's an age that kids are confused, like they're trying to figure themselves out. And sometimes they, you know, they attach themselves to a label, not knowing what it is. And I've known people who, you know, they experiment with different types of sexuality, with different genders, and then becomes very confusing a lot of times for the teen as they're experimenting. And then as they're sharing it with their parents are having a lot of reactions to their teens having these types of experimentation or labeling themselves a particular label. So there's a lot of panic, arguments, conversations, going on at this time around this conversation. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think we as parents are not prepared and we are not empowered to help our kids. We do overreact. That's my first observation. We overreact, and it is a time where our kids are exploring, and they don't even know their identity completely yet. Not even on 12. Not everybody even at 18. And then we do label, and that's the hard part, because now when a child would come and talk to their parents about this, I get a lot of those type of phone calls, and then they set themselves up like the child needs to be fixed when they come to me. And please don't do that. The child is already confused, and then when they are actually seeking help, not help to fix, I mean to understand, just understand sexuality, just understanding the world. It's so hard. And when us as parents overreact and call a counselor and, try to fix the situation because everything is wrong now, that doesn't help the kid. Just first focus on your child. Realize that this is a difficult time for them. They are struggling to find their identity. And then it's not the same as when we were young. They are exposed to much more online visual imagery and stuff like that, that creates more curiosity about different types of sexuality, where it might have not been so open to us when we were young, because there wasn't so many things available and so many options, and we didn't see it so explicitly. And now your kids are exposed to that, so they're wondering, and then they're suddenly labeling because they can't ask questions. Make sure that your child can ask you questions about these things. Be open enough to say, do you wonder about these things? Not going into a preaching mode, do not and do that, or it's right or wrong. Just be a parent there to have an open conversation so that they can say, do you wonder about this? Let's explore it together. And then I want to challenge parents to say, be brave enough to say, I don't know. That's a good answer as a parent. Say, well, I don't know. Let's go and find out, what does this mean? I think that we feel like we need to have all the answers and make sure that they do this and make sure that they do that. It's our job to empower and coach and teach our children. So if you don't have the answer, go and find out the answer with your child. Go and explore, go and do some research, get some books, get some programs. There's a lot of listen to podcasts. And then you say, okay, let's find out together. Don't just label your child. I think that's the worst thing to do. Maybe I can share one story about that, about this boy. He was confused. So he was just confused. He didn't know. He was playing a little bit more with girls, and he enjoyed dancing and doing, that typical things that he would be labeled as gay. And through his whole high school years, they called him that. And when he reached my office, he actually said, I thought I must be gay, otherwise I don't fit in here. But I actually didn't want to be. And nobody wanted to listen and talk to me. And I felt so sad for this young man, because he was actually so confused. He just needed some help. He just needed somebody to talk to. And maybe whatever decision he made would be okay. But I was just looking at a young man, confused, frustrated, scared, anxious. And nobody was there to listen and help him. So let's be parents that help them. Be that person that doesn't want to fix, but to listen, understand, and show some empathy for the struggles our teenagers has out there. It's much harder for them than it was for us.
Oh, yes. I would not want to go back and be a teen again. It's very much, there's a lot more pressure at this point.
Yes.
So Natasja, we've got 1 minute. I want to offer you the time to see if there's anything that you really want everybody to know that we haven't covered.
Well, the main thing that I want to send people away with is say, ask yourself, what is your goal by talking to your child about sex? Do you want them to come to you with anything and to talk to you about anything and help them to make healthy decisions for themselves when they're adults? We don't want to be a prison guard. We want to be help them put safe boundaries there to make wise decisions for themselves. And if that's your goal for the talk, you are already on the right course, all right, on the right way to to get the conversation started. If it's just another plumbing lesson, maybe let's talk again. I hope you walk away with listening to say, okay, I've got the reason why I want to talk. I've got my goal for the talk. And then we can talk about all the hows to and the best way to. But it's important to understand your reason.
Absolutely. So everyone, Natasja Visser, you can find her at letsexplain.org. Letsexplain.org. And you have workshops and seminars and groups that people can connect with you online, right?
Yes, that's available. You can find everything on that website.
It was a joy having you. Thank you so much for opening up a conversation that is so much needed for parents and teens.
Thanks so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
And for all of you who are out there, create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, take good care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Togetherness Media. Togethernessmedia.com